This is Claim Your Potential, the Empowerment Podcast. I'm Sofie Lindberg, your host and the Executive Director of Claim Your Potential. Get ready to embark on a transformative journey where we empower women and girls to unlock their full potential in every aspect of life. It's time to claim your potential and step into a life of empowerment. Tune in every Tuesday as we ignite your inner strength, provide actionable insights, and empower you to achieve greatness. So, are you ready to claim your potential? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Claim Your Potential, the Empowerment Podcast. I'm your host, Sofie, and in this episode, we are joined by Tamika Hill to discuss cultivating your mental wellness. With a passion for mental wellness, Tamika has forged a remarkable path from corporate life to becoming a compassionate and dynamic therapist. In 2017, Tamika founded T. Hill Consultant LLC, a consulting agency that brings therapeutic events, training, and engaging seminars to individuals, fostering personal growth and transformation. She's also the visionary behind Step by Step, the Spa for Your Mind, a private group practice that takes a unique approach to therapy. Today, we're diving into compelling topics with Tamika, including the connection between mental health and finances, her impactful annual event, Beautifully Broken and Mending Well experience, and ways to prioritize mental wellness even if traditional therapy isn't the initial path. Please welcome Tamika Hill. Thank you so much for being with us today, Tamika.
Thank you for having me.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey. I love starting off episodes with this question. So, could you share, your journey to where you are now and what motivated you to transition into the field of mental wellness?
Really, it started, to be honest, I took an elective into social work. I was going to school for computers and I took an interest in that because it was an easy class, so I thought, and I loved it. So I literally changed my whole track in school. Then after that, I got into the field. I already had a healthcare background. Fast forward, I was working in the school. By this time, I had my clinical license. And an incident happened where I had a really bad accident. I fractured my left kneecap and broke my ankle in 3 places. And while I was sitting at home for 13 months learning to rewalk, I thought about, like, what are you really doing? Are you really walking in your calling? And I will not lie, it was scary to take a risk to walk away from the 9 to 5 corporate America, but I built step by step in that time. And when I was able to go back to work, I literally stepped out. The biggest fear I had, truthfully, was healthcare because I had never been without healthcare or had to pay for it, I should say, outside of a job. And when I discovered that I could still have Blue Cross Blue Shield, I just was like, take a risk. And it started from there because I've always been passionate about people taking control of their emotions. And here I am today.
That is such an inspiring story, and thank you for sharing that with us. And I definitely noticed that quite a bit just being in the nonprofit space that there are so many people that, have something that just completely changes their life that happens to them. And all of a sudden it's this, call to action of how can I, help other people who've been in this situation? How can I help other people, through their emotions so they don't feel what I had to feel? So definitely such an inspiring story there. And I want to take a moment to connect that topic of mental wellness. And I'm curious if you can share a few insights or techniques you often cover to help individuals develop mental resilience and navigate uncertainties with strength and confidence.
Well, I will say this first. I call it mental Teflon. And the reason why I call it that is because we are way stronger than we know. And so, what I empower in people is to find how you can own whatever it is you're going through and not let it own you. So if you had a bad childhood, I challenge my clients to say, hey, you're not that child anymore. Yes, let's say it impacted me, but let's really move forward and grab hold of what you have power of today.
Yeah, absolutely. And then in terms of mental wellness and its impact, how do you envision mental wellness impacting various aspects of life from relationships and career to finances to, how we are in the workplace?
Mental wellness is the core of our being. I know a lot of people haven't really wrapped that around their mind yet, but truthfully, your mental wellness starts the moment you're born, right? When you think about it, if a newborn is not happy, they're crying. That starts in the mental field right there, right? So as you grow, how you even learn, I do a show called In the Money, and I talk about how your mental aspects affect your finances. So if you grew up in poverty, you may live in survivor mode, or you may have the opposite effect, every shiny object you want to buy. And that starts with your mental relationships, how you even seen relationships around you subconsciously dictates how you probably are going to interact in relationships, how you communicate, verbals, nonverbals, all of that starts with your mental, how you see life. You know, the old saying, the glass is half full, the glass is half empty. That is a thought process from your mental of how you see things, how you hear them, how you process them. So everything in your life, even your physical health, right? When you think about stress, right? The stress kills. Why does it kill though? Because your mind, if you're going over obsessing and, just constantly thinking over stuff about problems you have no solutions to, your body eventually, you're putting stress on it, making your heart work harder. So it affects your physical. So literally, even in the spiritual world, right? Whoever a person may worship or not worship, that affects your mental as well. So I believe your mental is the core of you and it starts the moment you're born.
Yeah, I could not agree more there. I think from all of my experiences with mental health and mental well-being, I have seen how that connection can take a toll when it's not taken care of. And when it is taken care of, the immense and incredible positive side effects that happen in all other areas of life. So definitely, and I think that's something that our listeners should walk away knowing and understanding that it's all connected to each other. And speaking of connection, the connection between mental health and financial decisions, I know this is something that you have a passion for. That connection, while might not be immediately apparent, could you shed some light on how our mental state can influence our financial behaviors and decisions?
Yes, you're so right. That is something I'm very passionate about. So oftentimes, depression, let's use that, right? So some people are functioning in depression. However, when they feel sad or feel bad, they go shopping, they're splurging on money they don't have to get emotional reaction of happiness. But the problem with that is it only lasts for however long that high lasts of that Louis Vuitton purse you bought, right? You feel good in that moment, but now you feel bad because you're looking at that credit card bill and you're in the red zone, you know? Or the flip side to that is you spend nothing on yourself. You have a nice amount of money and you literally live bare to the bone because you're scared. You're waiting for something bad to happen. A lot of people do not realize how much their financial state comes from how they mentally handle themselves. Mental health is one thing, but living a life of mental wellness is completely a different thing that people aren't wrapping around their minds just yet, right? Because mental wellness actually means all aspects of life. Mental health really just speaks to your mental health with your mind. But the finances, I always start from the bottom. How were you first introduced to money? How were you introduced to credit? So if you've seen your parents struggling, right, subconsciously, your mind has taken that on. And in your mind, you start processing either I'm not going to go through that, and that could cause the whole trying to stick with the Joneses, I guess you could say. And so you're buying all this stuff, but then you have a guilty feeling afterwards. or the opposite, because maybe your parents always like was going to the next thing, and it was never any stability. So that's what we would call survivor mode, because you never really felt safe. So it's very, very deep, actually, of how much money, or finances, I should say, is connected to how you operate with your own finances.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I am thinking back to some of the oh so many not so great financial decisions I've made. And for sure, there was definitely such a strong connection between the decisions I was making and where I was with my mental wellness. And it was almost like that self sabotage where it was, I don't feel well. I don't feel like myself. I'm trying to find an outlet to get some sort of validation or happiness. And so it was almost like spend, 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 only to go, wait a second, hold on, let me look at my credit card bill. Oh man, uh-oh, what did I do? So yeah, I definitely understand that connection there. And I think you're absolutely right. There's so much power in connecting the two together. And going a little bit deeper into that financial piece to mental wellness, are there any strategies or tips that you have for our listeners who perhaps might be in that red zone, who are, trying to deal with their mental wellness and, it's affected their financial decisions? How can our listeners who are in that space get out of it?
First you have to admit you're there, right? And when I mean that is like, because we become so comfortable in our dysfunction with finances. So if you don't even recognize you're there, then, we can't do that. But the first signs to even starting to say, hey, maybe this is deeper than what I think, is you're living paycheck to paycheck. There must be some overspending somewhere. I know, in America, we will say, oh, we need to make more money. No, we have to budget what we have, you know. And the first step I always tell people who have that emotional spending habit, create a budget for it, because you're not going to stop overnight. That's just the truth. So create a budget for it so you don't feel so restricted. It's kind of like a diet. So, when we go on those diets and we go to the extreme and you throw all the sweet stuff, all the bad stuff out, and you do good for about 3 days, and then boop, you're back down on the fourth day, right? Because you went to the extreme instead of a slow progress. It has to start very slow because your mind has to adjust to what you're trying to do. Our minds just don't have a flip switch, especially when we're going against something that we're so comfortable, even if it is dysfunctional. So I say, always write down when you find yourself emotionally spending, or not even emotionally, because you may not recognize it, right? Just start writing down like how often you're buying things, or writing down what you're feeling after you buy something or before you buy something, which is called your financial triggers. Because then it'll kind of give you a tell sign like, okay, this is what kind of causes me to spend, Even if you think about commercials, right? Commercials definitely have a lot of psychology behind them. When you think about the Super Bowl, they make you the Doritos commercials. Everybody looks forward to those, right? You aren't even thinking about eating a Dorito until you've seen the commercial, even if you don't like Doritos. The Cheetos and the Doritos, because of the commercials, right? It's the psychology behind that. People love things that look happy. So they buy into it. And that's exactly what, the people who are selling things to the consumers, that's exactly what they're advertising to us. This is going to make your life better. This is going to make you happy. And you have to stop yourself too if you're one of those impulsive buyers. Like, you have to cut down your interaction with social media, with TV. I know it's everywhere, but guess what? Netflix doesn't have any commercials. So maybe you got to watch something without commercials for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we're thinking about financial decisions and we're thinking about, mental wellness, and I know that part of the space that you're in is you are a therapeutic counselor. And so I'm curious as to, for those who might be hesitant about seeking therapy, what advice do you have for individuals who think therapy might not be for them, or who might be unsure of where to start?
Well, this is something I have a saying that I say Everybody will not go to therapy, but that does not mean you shouldn't have a therapeutic experience to expose you to new things. Because I do still understand there's a lot of stigma around therapy, or, people feel like, hey, I don't need that, right? Well, start with a book. If you're not a reader, start looking at YouTube's. TikTok is the new thing. Like they have a lot of, especially if you're one of them scrollers who like look on TikTok for hours and hours, change what you're looking at. Look at, therapists or anything surrounding mental health and see what resonates with you. Because as you said, people are hesitant about therapy. But if you're at the point like you're saying, okay, I'm comfortable with the therapist, understand therapy still has to be with a person you can connect to, because if you have no connection and no trust, it's not going to work. I know society teaches us you can go to any therapist and you can get help. No, that's not true, because we are still human. And I know a lot of people will get upset with this, but you're not going to like everybody. I don't care if they are a therapist. Personality matters. So I always say, do your research on the person you want. Like, I don't care if it's from the gender, from the spiritual aspect, what they concentrate in. Do your research on them. It's a link called psychologytoday.com. Most psychologists, therapists are all in that network, and they have to write like a biography and, different things. So people, the more detailed they are, the better, because you can do your research on them, right? Because maybe I think a man therapist is not for me. Or start going to therapeutic events just to see, It's so many ways that you can get therapy or have mental health care just by going to different places that maybe are talking about self-care, or going to events that may be talking about mental wellness. Not necessarily a one-on-one, because as you stated, some people are not ready for that. Pick up a book. YouTube has a wealth of knowledge. TikTok, wealth of knowledge. And if you are ready, do your research. I hate when people have a negative experience on their first try with therapy, because that can set them back. So I always say, don't jump into it. It's like your doctor who's going to take care of you. You want to know who that is.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I most definitely agree. When I think about just that knowledge aspect there, really making sure that, people get the full picture and that they, do the research. And absolutely, I've met some people that have not had great first experiences with therapy and it ruins it for them. And they're like, I don't want to do this again. It was awful. And yeah, for sure. The person that you're speaking to has so much to do with it. And it's okay to try different therapists out to figure out, maybe I like this personality, but maybe they're not, giving me the techniques I want. Or, oh, I like this person's, techniques, but we just cannot connect. I just can't open up to them the way that I know I could. Right. It's all that trial and error process.
Yes, I definitely say give it time. Do not think, I always tell my patients when they come in, I can't give you a pill and make you happy. I can't give you a pill and make it go away. But if you agree to do the work and we both put our full effort in, you're going to get somewhere. But you have to be dedicated to the process.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. And in terms of connecting everything together that we've talked about today, what is one thing that our listeners should take away from this episode?
Mental health is wonderful, but living a life of mental wellness will touch every aspect of your life, will make you a better you.
I love that. Oh my goodness, I love that so much. And for our listeners that do not want to stop connecting with you, where can our listeners get in touch with you?
I'm on T Hill Consultant every platform. So I am on TikTok, your real but raw therapist, Coach T. My website is thehillconsultant.com, or they can always contact me by phone, 773-322-5477. My email, info@thehillconsultant.com, and on Instagram and Facebook, T Hill Consultant.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, Tamika. It was an absolute pleasure speaking with you. And thank you for all of the wisdom that you shared.
Thank you for having me.
That brings us to the end of another empowering episode on Claim Your Potential, the Empowerment Podcast. Thanks for listening. If you've enjoyed our show and want to learn more about the work we do, you can visit our website, claimyourpotential.org. There, you can access our tools and workbooks, sign up for workshops, join our mentorship program, listen to previous and future episodes, donate to support our cause, and find out how you can get involved. For even more inspiring content, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Claim Potential, where we share inspiration, educational resources, episode and program announcements, and other content designed to help you reach your full potential. Your support means the world to us, and a free way to support our show is by leaving a rating and review on the podcast streaming platform of your choice. Your feedback helps us grow and reach even more people with our empowering message. If you're unsure of how to do this, head over to our website's Leave a Review page for step-by-step instructions. Thank you to each and every one of you for being a part of this empowering community. Tune in next time as we continue our journey of learning and discover even more ways to claim your potential. Until then, remember that you have the power to create the life you desire. Keep striving and keep growing.